3 months. And essentially, that's what's going to happen with the team and J.J. McCarthy because we haven't seen him do it long enough. We've seen him make some throws. We've seen him use the athleticism. We've seen him do the things that it's required to be a starting quarterback. I just haven't seen enough of it, Tony. So it's a huge risk. And I just don't know. Maybe Mike would, but I don't know if me and you would marry somebody after 3 months and think that it was going to be a stable marriage.
Yeah, the Golden Bachelor tried that. How'd that work out for him? How'd that work out for them, Booger? That didn't work out all that well. Let's zero in for a second on Caleb Williams, one of those quarterbacks we all agree on. I'm in the tank for this kid. My son attends the same high school that produced Caleb Williams here in Washington, D.C., Gonzaga High School. I'm totally in the tank for him, but you are looking at this from a greater and more reasonable distance. Is there anything about Caleb Williams that you've seen, heard, found out for yourself so far, fear, that worries you?
Well, there's really only one thing, Mike, and it's the fact that can you get this young man to play on time and play in rhythm? You know, if you think about what Denver did with Russell Wilson, the reason Russell Wilson is no longer in Denver is because he couldn't play on time in that offense, and Sean Payton wanted a quarterback that could play on time. Well, Caleb Williams is kind of the same guy. Like, he wants to move around, he wants to improvise, he wants to make those wild-type plays because he can do that, and because he had to at USC. Jordan Addison was gone, and this past year, he didn't really have a top receiver, so he was running around making those wild plays. But if you look at the pure talent, I think his ability and his ceiling, we often compare him to Patrick Mahomes because of those plays. If he gets close to what we think he can be, then you got a home run, you got an all-pro quarterback. But that's the one thing. If you were to tell me Caleb Williams doesn't succeed, and here's why, it's because the quarterback coach, it's because the offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron in Chicago, could not get this young man to play on time. It's the one little thing that kind of scares a lot of people, but I really don't think it's a big deal. I think he's going to be dynamite from day one when he steps into the league.
All right, I certainly like hearing that. Booger, let's broaden this out for a second. I want to ask you about something that I heard Mel Kiper say, which just was like wow to me.
They traded away their number one wide receiver. Everybody knows they need a receiver. Kansas City doesn't have a left tackle. They need a left tackle. The Saints need a tackle. So there's so much movement by teams that we usually know what they're going to do. I think that's where the intrigue comes in at.
We will get you out of here on this. We've talked about quarterbacks. There are a lot of wide receivers expected to go high, but you played defense. You don't care about quarterbacks and wide receivers except quarterbacks if you knock them down. Are there players at other positions who you are particularly high on in this draft?
Yeah, no doubt. And I'm going to go to the defensive side of the ball. I'll start with what I think is the best defensive player in the draft, and that's Laiatu Latu out of UCLA. Now, he comes with a little caveat. There's a medical issue. He was medically retired when he attended the University of Washington, but he's been healthy when he went down to UCLA. But he is the best edge rusher in the draft, a tactician. He's got not only one move, he's got move 2 and 3. And so he comes to this league ready to rush like a guy like Max Crosby at the Las Vegas Raiders. I look at Dallas Turner, another edge guy, Quinyon Mitchell, the cornerback out of Toledo. It's not often we hear small school guys this high in the draft because of the transfer portal. Those guys usually transfer and go to a bigger school. But Quinyon Mitchell, I think, has a chance to be the first cornerback taken nobody's talking about. Byron Murphy II, defensive tackle out of the University of Texas. Another guy, when you start thinking about the guy in L.A. that just retired, Aaron Donald, he's not Aaron Donald, but when you think about guys that look like that look like me, Tony, 6'1", 290 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal, these are the guys that you want that can come up the middle and get after the quarterback. And so him, Johnny Newton, it's a couple of guys. I think the defensive guys that go in the first round are going to stick out because it's not going to be a lot of them, but they're going to be really, really good players.
Thank you, Booger. Such a pleasure.
That's
for us.
great.
Thank you so much.
Twisted steel.
Thank you.
Twisted steel.
Yeah.
You got to like that, Tom.
And sex appeal,
and
Mike.
Sex appeal.
Twisted steel,
forget.
baby.
Yeah. All
Booger,
right,
thank
let's take
you.
one last break. Still to come, Bill Belichick appears to have a new gig.
And Reggie Bush gets something back that was snatched from him 14 years ago. That's been a while. I like this Murphy kid from Texas. Like, I'm thinking that's a bear. If Adunze's not there, he's a bear. You put him in the middle of a defensive line, reminds me of a young Dan Hampton.